Hello, I'm Bernard Hickey from interest.co.nz and welcome to a special investing report brought to you in association with BNZ. This week, the landscape and the debate about national savings changed. Prime Minister John Key has opened up the possibility of a compulsory KiwiSaver scheme. And the government is allowing the creation of a pensions working group, a bit like the tax working group or the welfare working group that have been set up to look at the issues around tax and welfare. Now we're looking at pensions and savings. Now John Key has been a little bit careful. He's saying that we're not looking to change the national superannuation system that we have at the moment. That's where everyone, regardless, gets a pension from the age of 65. And for a couple, that's up to 66% of the median wage. Now, it's quite an efficient system. It seems reasonably fair, and it keeps poverty for the aged relatively low, certainly compared to other countries. And it's a fairly good system for making sure that everyone gets some sort of payment. But is it enough, and can we sustain it for the next 20, 30, 40 years as a big cohort of baby boomers retire and their pensions and healthcare will have to be paid by those people who are working at that stage? So John Key has responded to this long-term concern about whether we can afford our current pensions system. We also have a national savings problem. New Zealanders don't save enough. We have to borrow a lot from the rest of the world, and currently our foreign debt is relatively high, almost up towards 100% of GDP on a net basis. So we've created a couple of things. Firstly, the New Zealand Superannuation Fund, or it's called the Cullen Fund. There's about $15–16 billion in there now. We also have KiwiSaver. It's opt-out at the moment. About 1.5 million New Zealanders are in KiwiSaver. We have about 5.5 billion saved there. But there's an interesting quirk that's developing. Even though we have a national savings problem, and many of our companies, small to medium companies, say we are starved of local capital, we're actually saving quite a lot. The difference is, much of it is going overseas. Almost 70% of the Cullen funds have been put into overseas companies and overseas debt. And more than 40% of the KiwiSaver funds have gone overseas. Now, there's a couple of reasons for that. Modern portfolio theory says that you're best not to put all your eggs into one basket, and putting it all into New Zealand could be seen as risky. The other thing is that our capital markets just aren't deep enough and wide enough and liquid enough to handle these sorts of savings. So we've got a problem. It's not so much a national savings problem, it's a problem with our capital markets. They're just not strong enough and, frankly, trusted enough. Are we really ready to have a compulsory KiwiSaver scheme where people put their money into not just New Zealand stock markets, but global stock markets? And there's some real questions to be asked in this national debate about savings. Are our capital markets strong enough? Should we have some sort of capital control so that money we save here actually stays here? These are some really big questions, particularly in the context of the global financial crisis, where it's quite possible the equity premium, the amount you get from putting your money into stocks, may not be as high as it has been in the past. This raises the question, should we be saving by putting money into stock funds, or should we be saving by making sure we don't increase government debt? Maybe the most efficient way to save for the future is just to make sure that we don't run deficits. Some real questions there for New Zealand to thrash out over the next year or two. John Key has said that the Pensions Working Group will come back with some proposals that he may take to the electorate in next year's election. Certainly it's going to be a hot topic around the tables in Wellington and also around kitchen tables as people wonder, have they saved enough for their retirement? What's our government going to do about it? And is this the best way to go? I'm Bernard Hickey. That was a special investing report brought to you in association with BNZ.